Color sign. March.
Please be seated. On behalf of the Chief Petty Officers Mess, we would like to extend a warm welcome to General Povak, our commanding officer, Captain Morgan, all senior executive service members, distinguished guests, senior enlisted leaders, and our NSFA family. Today, we have the distinct honor and privilege of pinning the FY23 Chief Petty Officers. Ceremonies like this are being conducted throughout the Navy. In doing so, we celebrate two things. One, the advancement in deserving and proving Navy sailors to the rank of E7, and the other, and most importantly, being assigned to the grade of Chief Petty Officer. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce the commanding officer of Naval Information Warfare Systems Command, Space Field Activity, Captain Christopher Morgan, United States Navy.
General Povak, Mr. Racinez, Chief Master Sergeant Timmerman, Chief Master Sergeant Ryan, honored guests, NSFA Naval Space Professionals, NRO colleagues, and of course families, welcome to NSFA's Chiefs Pinning Ceremony. As Chief mentioned today, all around the world, the Navy's Chiefs Mess is pinning, recognizing, and accepting new chiefs into the mess. And what we'll witness today is a time-honored and significant, possibly the most significant Navy tradition. So I'll cover a little bit about what exactly makes that ceremony significant. But first, I'm going to come off my prepared remarks a little bit. As I was driving down here, I was reflecting on how hard a time I had putting this together, or putting these remarks together. And the reason for that is there's absolutely no way I could cover the depth and breadth of what this ceremony means and do it justice in a socially acceptable timeline. And if Senior Flowers or Chief Gleason would know, they'd probably be thinking like, oh boy, strap in, he's gonna get going. And I know Chief is probably like, boss, we gotta stay on timeline if you can't get going. So what I tried to do was scope this down to something digestible and understandable to kind of highlight some of the most significant aspects of this ceremony before we get started. So first, I'll say it's significant for the Navy because today we add another link in the chain, a chain of leaders and experts who the service depends on to make literally everything happen. The mess is where ideas, vision, guidance, and orders go to become reality through expertise, execution, and hard work. Second, it's significant to the mess in particular because today the mess has been infused by a new generation of leaders with diverse perspectives, new energy, new motivation, and new ideas. Third, it's significant to this command in particular because we get to celebrate adding chiefs to not only the mess here at the NRO representing the NCR, but we have the opportunity to also add a member to the mess in Norfolk and a member to the mess in San Diego. And we had the unique opportunity and a first for me and the command to accept our first Space Force Guardian. Yeah. Fourth, it's significant to me as a CO, and I think every CO worth their salt, because we know that each of us would never have gotten here or where we are without the support and advice of trusted chiefs throughout our careers. And that as a CO, I know that the triad is not whole without its leading chief. And that no command is successful without a strong, professional, trusted, and trained goat walker. And fifth, it's significant to each of our new members because it represents the end of a body of work that brought each of you to this moment. And of course, the end of an arduous training and learning period built to ready you for the life as a chief. But also, it marks the beginning of a new journey, one with wholly new expectations and challenges. So to expand on that sort of fifth item, I want to illustrate a little bit what they've gone through for the past 6 weeks. So chief season or initiation is built and designed to ready each new selected E7 for life and work as a chief petty officer on day one. Over the past 6 weeks, our selects have received lessons on leadership, advocacy, trust and tradition, character, confidence, credibility, teamwork, loyalty and humility, relationships, motivation and engagement, ethical decision-making, humility again, influence, and honesty. Each of these is essential to leading as a chief in the Navy. And each in the past weeks learned through, I'm sure, shared struggle and probably some moments of deep personal introspection. So from the high of that first moment, when Chief Spencer was notified that she was selected, or when Chief Budzinski was finally notified that after 2 years of trying, he was going to get to participate in the season, to the low of the moment where they both collectively discovered that they weren't even capable of breathing, let alone walking correctly. These two professionals have spent the last 6 weeks completing their master's program in leadership as administered by the NSFA and NCR Chiefs Mess. And I know that now each is carrying in their vessels and soon to be in their anchors and covers the collective wisdom of nearly 130 years of leadership and life lessons. So again, thank you all for being here with us to celebrate and recognize the significance of this moment. Chief, let's get to it.
Thank you, Captain Morgan. Now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Chief Petty Officer Retired, Travis Rogers.
Good morning. Thank you to the NSFA Chiefs Mess for having me back as guest speaker again this year. It's an honor, truly. And not just an honor to be able to speak here again, but also to have been able to serve as a mentor throughout the last 6 weeks of this season. Despite every season having many things in common, all with the end goal of making new chiefs, each season also has its own unique experiences. This one was no exception. Not only is every selectee a unique person being brought into the fold, we also have the joy of bringing in another service this time as the unique experience. As any mess can attest, this brought forth new challenges that most of us had never experienced. But with every new challenge that was presented, the mess embraced it as a new opportunity, because that's how the Chiefs Mess rolls. Tara, I know there were times when you felt you were bearing the weight of all Navy knowledge and experience squarely on your shoulders as the sole Navy select going through. And Justin, I know there were times when you felt like you were bearing the full weight of leadership experience, having already been a master sergeant for a couple years. You guys balanced each other out. Where there may have started with resentment, you guys figured out how to work together as a team, to embrace one another, to use your strengths to help the other's weaknesses, because nobody is perfect and nobody can do it on their own. It was a hard lesson, but you started learning it, and then you embraced it, and that's what's led to where you are today, because you've embraced the bigger picture beyond just yourselves. In addition to that, in embracing it, you were able to complete your final challenge last night. And I saw the looks in both your faces. You were exhausted. You were so done. but I could tell how happy and overjoyed both of you were at the end of that. You were also able to show us who you are. Instead of telling us who you were, you showed us, truly showed us every fiber of your being. Gone was the select who could barely stand at shock and awe and had to sit down. Gone was the select who lost all military bearing and showed every degree of frustration imaginable. Last night, you both showed us that we were looking at chiefs who were just merely waiting to be pinned. This ceremony is just a formality that's meant to recognize the reality that took place last night. So I want to take a moment to share a story that was shared with me some years back. It was a dark and stormy night with storms raging outside the circus tent. The lion tamer was in the ring with a ferocious lion standing on the stool, just staring each other down. Armed with a whip and a chair, the lion tamer stared down the lion when all of a sudden lightning struck and the lights went out. It was pitch black, nobody could see a thing, and the lion started growling more than ever. Attendees started screaming. Fear rose. After about 30 seconds, the lights came back on, and to the surprise of all the attendees, the lion tamer was still standing there, staring down the lion, whip cocked back and chair outstretched. He was alive and well. So what's the moral of the story? The lion tamer had trained for this. He knew right from wrong, and he never doubted what he knew. There was no room for doubt. Though he was blind in that moment and knew the lion could still see him in the dark, what he knew in the light, he also believed in the dark. Always do what you know is right and rely on your training. Even when things seem dark and you can't see up from down, staying the course in your training, confidence, and integrity will see you through to the end. As an additional moral, don't be like the lion who gets so focused on each of the 4 chair legs that instead of making a decision, it delays and hesitates while just standing on the stool. Lion could easily kill the tamer, whose whip is just for show, but instead gets stuck in analysis paralysis. Don't be afraid to make a decision and go for it. Things may not always make sense, but you know what needs to be done. Focus on that as you lead your sailors and guardians. Always maintain a positive attitude and never let them see you stumble. You can show us if you're stumbling and we'll get you back on course. Never show that to your junior sailors or guardians or to the officers over you. Again, when you can't get through it alone, realize you are not alone. You have the entire mess. We will get you back on your feet because we rise and we fall together. But you still must do your part. When you find the stress begins to rise, and I promise you that it will, think back on the old saying that an entire sea of water can't sink a ship unless it gets inside the ship. Similarly, the negativity of the world can't put you down unless you allow it to get inside of you. Trust in your training, trust in your sailors, trust in your guardians, trust in your character, and trust in the power of the mess. And lastly, as I shared last year, got my retirement coin. And on the back of it, there's a saying I came up with before I retired, and it's fear. And I would always say, instill fear in your sailors. But it's not F-E-A-R, it's F-E-E-R. Stands for foresight, engagement, execution, results. Use foresight in all you do. Plan out 6 months ahead. Be engaged in all facets of your shop, and then branch out into the command. Be that deck plate leader. While being engaged, don't be afraid to make a decision. Don't let analysis paralysis get the best of you. There are going to be moments when you fail, but at least fail forward. Learn from those failures and turn them into future successes. Just be sure to execute because there will be many moments where all eyes will be on you to make a decision. And if you combine foresight, engagement, and execution, I promise you that results will follow.
Thank you, Chief Rogers. Ladies and gentlemen, Master Sergeant Lasasso, who transitioned from the Navy several months ago into the Space Force, was Chief Lasasso, now Master Sergeant Lasasso, will now read the fouled anchor.
Good morning, everybody. The fouled anchor is the emblem of the rank of Chief Petty Officer of the United States Navy. Attached to the anchor is a length of chain and the letters USN. To the novice, the anchor, chain, and letters only identify a Chief Petty Officer of the United States Navy. But to the Chief, these have more noble and glorious meaning. The U stands for unity, which reminds us of cooperation, maintaining harmony, and continuity of purpose and action. The S stands for service, which reminds us of the service to our God and fellow man and our Navy. The N stands for navigation, which reminds us to keep ourselves on a true course so that we may walk upright before God and man in our transactions with all mankind, but especially with our fellow chiefs. The chain is symbolic of flexibility and reminds us of the chain of life that we forge every day, link by link, and may it be forged with honor, mortality, and virtue. The anchor is emblematic of the hope and glory of the fulfillment of all of God's promises to our souls. The golden of precious anchor by which we must be kept steadfast in faith and encouraged to abide in our proper station amidst the storm of temptation, affliction, and persecution. Thank you.
Thank you, Master Sergeant Lasasso. Side boys. Post.
Side boys, attention. Forward. March.
One of the distinctive trademarks of the American Blue Jacket sailor is the white hat, which symbolizes a long and proud tradition of the Navy's core values of honor, courage, and commitment. However, the sailor assembled today no longer wears that hat. Instead, this sailor and guardian joins the ranks of Chief Petty Officer. They will don a new cover, a symbol of their new position and responsibility, representing a long and proud tradition of service. It is a tradition that the sponsor of each new Chief Petty Officer presents the new cover to the Chief. Ladies and gentlemen, our FY23 Chief Selects will now be pinned. Chief Selects, attention. Chief Select Spencer, front and center. Chief Select Spencer will be pinned by her sister Angela Jefferson and Chief Warrant Officer Sean Avaloy. Her cover will be placed by her sponsor, Chief Ryan Brown. Chief Spencer, post. Chief Petty Officer Tara Spencer arriving. Chief Select Justin Budzinski, front and center. Chief Select Budzinski will be pinned by his wife Jamie, children Alice and Elijah, and Chief Chris Boggs. And his cover will be placed by his sponsor, Master Sergeant Lasasso. Chief Budzinski, post. Chief Petty Officer Justin Budzinski, arriving. Side boys, post. Now I will be reading the Chief Petty Officer Creed. All Chief Petty Officers, active and retired, attention to the Creed. During the course of this day, you have been caused to humbly accept challenge and face adversity. This you have accomplished with rare good grace. Pointless as some of these challenges may have seemed, there were valid, time-honored reasons behind each pointed barb. It was necessary to meet these hurdles with blind faith and fellowship of the Chief Petty Officers. The goal was to instill in you that trust is inherent with the donning of the uniform of a chief. It was our intent to impress upon you that challenge is good, a great and necessary reality which cannot mar you, which in fact strengthens you. In your future as a Chief Petty Officer, you'll be forced to endure adversity far beyond that imposed upon you today. You must face each challenge and adversity with the same dignity and good grace you demonstrated today. By experience, by performance, and by testing, you have been this day advanced to Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy, and only in the United States Navy, the rank of E7 carries with it unique responsibilities and privileges you are now bound to observe and expected to fulfill. Your entire way of life is now changed. More will be expected of you, more will be demanded of you, not because you are an E7, but because you are now a Chief Petty Officer. You have not merely been promoted one pay grade, you have joined an exclusive fellowship, and as in all fellowships, you have the special responsibility to your comrades, even as they have a special responsibility to you. This is why we in the United States Navy may maintain with pride our feelings of accomplishment once we have attained the new position of Chief Petty Officer. Your new responsibilities and privileges do not appear in print. They have no official standing. They have existed for over 100 years. Chiefs before you have freely accepted responsibility beyond the call of printed assignment. Their actions and their performance demanded the respect of their seniors as well as their juniors. It is now required that you be the fountain of wisdom, the ambassador of goodwill, the authority in personal relationships, as well as the technical applications. Ask the chief is a household phrase in and out of the Navy. You are now the chief. The exalted position you have now achieved, and the word exalted is used advisedly, exists before the attitude and performance of the chiefs before you. It shall only exist as long as you and your fellow chiefs maintain these standards. It was our intention that you never forget this day. It was our intention to test and try you and to accept you. Your performance has assured us that you will wear the hat with the same pride as your comrades in arms before you. We take deep and sincere pleasure in clasping your hand and accepting you as a Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy. Please be seated. NSFA's Chief Mess. Fall in.
Honor, courage, commitment.
Stand Navy out to sea, fight our battle cry. We'll never change our course, so vicious foes steer shy. Roll out the TNT, boom, anchors away. Sail on to victory and sink their bones to Davy Jones' array. Anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to foreign shores, we sail at break of day. Through our last night ashore, drink to the foam. Until we meet once more, here's wishing you a happy voyage home. Blue of the mighty deep, gold of God's great sun. Let these our colors be till all of time be done. On 7 seas we learn Navy's stern call. Faith, courage, service true with honor over all. Go Navy! Navy Chief, Navy Pride! Navy Chief, Navy Pride!
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you our fiscal year 23 Chief Petty Officers. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the NSFA's Chief Petty Officer pinning ceremony. Please come up and congratulate our newest chiefs. Thank you all for attending, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.